We are going to work on constructing the back main exterior now. For this one, we're going to start the same way we did the last one and mark a line 1 inch away from the slanted edges. And construction for the back main exterior is similar to the front, but much easier because we won't have a pocket up here. This edge up here will remain raw. So next we are going to place our double-sided tape along the slanted edge, just like we did before. And repeat on the other side. Remove the paper from the tape and fold that edge over to meet the 1 inch line we just drew. Okay, and repeat that on this side as well. Okay, so now both slanted edges are folded in to meet that 1 inch line, and we're going to add another line of double-sided tape right against the edge, just like before. Not along the fold, but along the raw edge. And do the same over here. Next, we are going to retrieve our main top back piece. And it's the one that does not have the extended center like our front piece did. So we are going to lay this down right sides together against the wrong side of the main bottom piece. And we're going to line it up again. I'm going to take the paper off of the tape here. And we're going to line up the point of the main top piece. This point here is going to line up with this angle of the fold. So try and show you that slowly. So I'm just going to stick that down and then stick the rest of the pocket down, aligning the slanted edge of the main top with the fold of the main bottom. And then this angle right here matches the angle of the main top point. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Okay, match up the angle at the bottom and then follow the angle all the way up and stick it down. Okay, everything looks aligned. We can flip that over and you can see here the slanted edges look the same as they did on the front panel, but the top is still open and raw, and we're going to leave that the way that it is. So top stitch just down the slanted edges right here, the way that we did before. But don't worry about turning and going 1/2 inch across the top here. We're just going to do the slanted edges. Right where the fold is. You can back stitch because the top of this will be covered with our flap. Okay. You can see here, I just top stitched the folded edge. Do the same on the other side. And you don't have to go all the way up to the top of the main bottom piece. Just stop stitching once you have reached the top of the folded part. Okay, now it is time to make our marks for the flap at the top. This is going to be the same as the front, the same measurements. So we're going to do 3 inches from the side for the handbag and 3.5 inches from the side for the day bag. And we're just making a mark at the top that will be hidden by the seam allowance later. Next, we are going to grab our back flap and we're going to put that in between the 2 marks that we just made, and also make sure that this front seam on the flap is 1/2 inch down from the top of the main panel. So in between the 2 marks and 1/2 inch down. There we go, and clip that in place. We're going to turn this and make sure this side is also 1/2 inch down. And clip that in place, okay? Okay, the flap is now clipped to the main exterior back piece, and I've also made sure that the flap zipper pocket liner is pulled up and out of the way, and we are now going to stitch this flap to the main exterior back piece here. And how we do that is we are going to start stitching with our needle down right at the end of this 1/8 inch top stitching. So the one that you did very first that goes up and across the top, we're going to start right there next to our 1/4 inch stitching and stitch it 1/8 of an inch all the way down, and then stop on the other side right with our needle down in this stitch as well. So keep everything lying pretty flat as possible. Make sure that liner is pulled all the way up so that everything can sit flat. Okay, I'm just taking a quick peek underneath my foot to make sure that my needle goes down right in the hole of that last stitch, and I'm going to leave long thread tails and begin stitching at 1/8 of an inch. Go slow as we come up on this curve. Make sure that you are consistent and just do 1 stitch and then pivot, 1 stitch and then pivot. All right, I am approaching the last stitch of the first top stitching, and I'm just going to use my hand wheel to get my needle right in the right spot. Okay, pull long threads again, and here you can see that this flap is now top stitched to the exterior back piece. And I started with my needle down right where that top stitching ended, and I went all the way around the bottom and back up the other side. So you can turn this over and pull on the back threads to get the front threads to the back. And give them a tie. Okay, those threads are now tied off here, and I like to just keep them long. Don't cut them too short or else they'll unravel. And next step is just going to be to push the flap liner pocket down through this opening in the main back. So now the pocket is able to lay naturally, and you have a fully functional pocket on the back of your bag. Next, before we unclip this, we are going to just take a pen and put the point of the pen through the rivet holes to mark on the main exterior. And I'm going to unclip the flap and fold it back, and I can see that all my marks made it onto the main exterior piece. And we are going to wait on setting those rivets until the end of the pattern. And this is what your main back should look like so far. Next, you're going to find the center of the bottom edge here on the back, and I'm just going to use my ruler for this and measure out the center. Grab your backpack connector, and what we're going to do is feel each of the ends so that you know which side is stabilized and which side is not stabilized. For me, this end is stabilized, so we're going to lay this wrong side up, and we're going to measure and make a couple marks here on the wrong side. So again, the stabilized edge is here, and we're going to measure 3.5 inches from the stabilized edge, and we're going to make some marks right here. And 3.5 is the same measurement for the day bag size. So do 3.5 inches regardless of what size bag you're making, and just make a mark there. And you are going to take some double-sided tape, and you want to place the double-sided tape in the middle of the wrong side of the backpack connector, but my mark is right here, and I made the tape extend past the mark just a little bit, 1/4 of an inch or so, and then I ended it about 1/2 inch up from the bottom. And that is so that you can take a rectangle ring, slide it on the stabilized end of the backpack connector, remove the paper from the tape, and then fold the end of the backpack connector to meet that line that we drew on the wrong side. And the overhang of the double-sided tape by about 1/4 of an inch is going to keep that fold in place until we're ready to sew. Okay, we're going to bring back our main back panel, and I'm going to use my ruler just so that I can keep everything straight. So what I'm going to do first is center the backpack connector with the center mark on the bottom edge of the main back panel and kind of stick that down with the double-sided tape. And then I'm going to line up a ruler with the bottom edge of the main back panel. And that way I can tell whether or not I am sticking this backpack connector down perfectly perpendicular to the bottom edge. So it's straight up and down. Next, we are going to measure 1 inch down from the fold of the connector. And just make a mark across the right side of the connector with chalk or removable ink, whatever works for the material that you're using, like that. And now we are going to start sewing at the bottom here, right at the edge. So up the side, pivot at the mark you made and sew across, and then pivot again and sew all the way down to the bottom. You're also going to want to make sure that the zipper liner, the zipper pocket liner from your flap pocket is not in the way of the stitches on your connector. So I have my liner flipped up like this, and I've reached my line, so I'm going to pivot and sew across. Pivot again, and sew back down the other side. Okay, I'm just getting the chalk off of the front of my connector. And here is the stitched connector. Stitched up the side, across that mark I drew, and all the way down to the other side. Next, we are going to measure a 1/2 inch up from the stitches we just made when we went across the width of the connector. 1/2 inch up from that, and centered, we're going to make a mark for a rivet. Okay, I have punched my hole for the rivet. Again, making sure that I did not punch through the zipper pocket liner. I punched through just the exterior panel, and I'm going to set my rivet through the connector. Okay, here is my main back panel all complete. And next we are going to attach it to the main front panel.